fatherless a little bit different. My dad was actually present, sorry, my entire life and still is in a sort. But my dad is a Satan worshiper. Like, I remember growing up, and even now, my dad would say, I got property in hell. And I'm like, what? Like, why would you want that to be your forever place? I don't even like fire now. Like, I couldn't imagine that being my forever home. But I always tell Dave, I'm a part of who I am because of my dad. Because even though he didn't know Jesus, he took what he knew to try to make me be the best girl that I could be, or the best woman that I could be. And I always appreciated that. So our relationship is a little rocky, but he still is around. And with boundaries, I think that's a big part of our relationship, is because I do feel that my husband and I are the only people in his life who can share Christ with him. So you don't run from that, right? Like, so that's how I kind of fit in the fatherless cycle. I also grew up the little girl that always wanted a bunch of kids. I knew what my wedding was gonna look like, and and then as I got older and we got married and actually started to try to have kids, it was hard. And I'm like, what is going on? So when Joe talked about my health issues, a lot of my health issues come from the infertility stages of life. So I have endometriosis and adenomyosis, and they're kind of like the opposite of each other. So I could be fine one minute and the next minute I'm like breaking down out of nowhere. It's very hard to explain. One of them has a cure and the other one don't. So either way, I'll be stuck with it for the rest of my life. With that, like I told Dave when we got married, I was like, I think I want to give birth to like 18 kids. And at first I think he was kind of looking like, you can't be serious. I'm like, no, I'm serious. I come from a big family, and like, I want to have a lot of kids. Like, that's my goal. And God said, okay, but not the way you think. So I'm like, I want to give birth to these kids. Like, I want a mini football team and a basketball team. Like, I just want these kids rolling in and out every 1 year. That's what I wanted. And so we got pregnant right just shy of our first year, and we had an ectopic pregnancy, and it devastated me. And that's when we started the journey of realizing, I had a doctor who told me, yeah, you'll never be able to have kids. You should just get everything taken out and just chunk it up. I was like, well, that's hardcore. Like, that's really hard to tell a woman that want kids. Like, how can you just say that? And he was like really blunt about it. And so I switched jobs, and I was very like depressed and didn't know I was depressed because I was like still doing life. And I remember telling Dave, I'm like, I'm just tired of being in like this hurdle of just pain all the time, with the emotional, the physical. I'm gonna find me a new doctor, and I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna tell them, like, let's just do the surgery. I'm not doing this. So I found this doctor. Her name was Dr. Leahy. And I went in, and I go in and I'm like, all right, I don't want to do the whole running around. I don't have money. Like, you don't need to bill me and see me all the time. Like, I'm coming in, we're gonna have the surgery, we taking everything out, and that's it. She basically looked at me and was like, are you done? And I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not going to give you my money. We're going to schedule the surgery, and this is it. And she was like, no, you are too young. I'm not taking his advice. I want to do my own test, and we're going to see what we can do. We're going to get you a baby. What I didn't know when we were talking the first time was that she was such a strong believer. So through that, she just would tell us over the time, like, me and my daughter prayed for you last night. Like, we added you to our prayer list and all that. And I think within a year of seeing her, she did a surgery to go in and look at everything, and that's when I got diagnosed with things, and she was like, I want you to try for a year. We tried for a year, nothing happened. She put me on a list for in vitro, and I'm looking all this up. I'm like, $15,000 plus. Like, who's paying for this? My insurance don't cover it. Like, who's doing this? And they was like, it could take a year for them to even call you. So I was like, okay, maybe they won't call. The people called us in less than a month, I think, to schedule the first appointment. And what I didn't know was that the month that they called me was the same month that my insurance switched and ended up paying for a majority of it. And so we started this process. Our church helped us put together this fundraiser to raise funds for what insurance didn't cover. And lo and behold, we got Deuce. And so going through, and that was like the best experience I think our family been through. But going through that, I'm just like, okay, this is just one of my 18, right? Like, this is the first one. We're going to do it again. But then more complications came around the time we wanted to start again. And then I had to have another surgery that kind of hindered me from having any kids on my own other than through surgery. So we started to pray, and I'm like, I don't know what children look like for us. I just know I wanted a lot of kids. Then Joel and Dave kind of tag teamed me and was like, we really want you to be on staff for UTM. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I work at Applebee's. I got my own ministry at Applebee's. This is what I want to do. I don't want to do that. I'm starting a business. This is how my life is going to go. And they said, you should just pray about it. No, I'm not going to do that because God talked to me in a different way, and he's going to tell me what I don't want to hear. So I'm not even going to pray about it because I don't want to hear what God got to tell me, right? So I remember me and Dave getting into it one day, and I just started crying. I'm like, you're not listening to me. Like, you're choosing Joel over me, and I'm not praying about this. Like, I got it planned out. So my general manager at Applebee's was like, you have to take this job. We'll always be here for you. You can pick up shifts, but you have to take this job. I'm like, all three of y'all against me? Like, what is this? So I'm like, okay, I'll pray. And lo and behold, I prayed, and I knew it was no way I could say no to taking this job to UTM. But what I didn't know was it wasn't just a job. What I didn't know was that all those kids I wanted was going to come through this ministry. And so all that to say, like, you go through these things in life and you think you got your life figured out, and then God say, ha, just wait till I show you, right? And all my kids call me Mama Ro. And so it's just like, when you think about them relationships, I can't close my door on my kids. I wouldn't do it to my son or to my daughter, so how can I do it to these kids in my neighborhood? So when Joel talk about discipleship being a one-on-one relationship, to us it's a family. Like, those kids are my families. We had a kid get shot. They went to talk to grandma. I just was on the phone call the other day with a girl. She going through boyfriend crisis. And I'm like, if you don't leave this little boy alone, she's like, Mama Ro. I'm like, I'm just saying, it's time to chunk it up. So it's like, you literally, these are like my kids. These are my babies. Like, God put me in this place to say, I'm not giving you the option to give birth to a child once a year, but I'm going to send you a bunch of kids every year to come along and nurture that's going to need you in the way that you can give them that maybe they're not getting at home. And it's challenging because I feel like they my kids, but certain things I don't have say so too, right? And so it really is a challenge. It really is it really is a challenging thing, and but it's also rewarding, and I wouldn't change it. So thank you, Joel and Dave, for pushing me to pray even when I didn't want to pray. And now even going into the executive director role in 3 years, it's like whoever come behind me needs to be on the same mission as me. They need to come alongside me to say, I want to love these kids like mine, because they need that. And I want to have these relationships with not just the children, but mom or maybe even dad or whoever they're in the household with, grandparents, because it really is like a big family that never ends. So thank you for your support. A lot of it couldn't be done without the support, even though, like Dave said, we would do it even if we didn't get a paycheck, but that's just not the way the world goes. So I have to pay the mortgage for them to knock on my door, right? So there's that. So thank you again for coming alongside and even just hearing us out and what it is that we do. So.